Let me ask you a question. What are some of your favorite pieces of media? And how exactly do you interact with them? Are you a big member of the discussion of them online, or do you just sit and observe? Personally, I'm a part of a few infamous fan bases. As any Pikmin fan will tell you, we're a bit deranged. After 10 years of waiting for another game, the Pikmin community has been turned into, kind of a wasteland of memes and inside jokes. And the Persona fandom is, well, it's something, that's for sure. But a game series that I've always been a fan of has recently caught my attention for its fan base. Pokémon. I've always liked Pokémon, but recently I've started to really get invested in the finer details of it, and I've even started shiny hunting a lot more thanks to a certain friend of mine. Gee, I wonder who that could be. But something that's really quite intriguing to me is the sheer dedication this community has to the franchise. So I wanted to talk about that community, the ups, the downs, and the all-arounds. Starting with... Pokémon is an incredibly unique franchise, not only because it spans basically every medium ever created, games, shows, movies, books, etc., but also because of its interconnectivity. Since its inception, Pokémon has always been about community and connecting with the people around you. Almost every Pokémon game ever made is completely impossible to 100% without the help of a friend, mainly because of the whole dual release strategy. You know, you can only get certain Pokémon in certain versions of the game, so you gotta trade them to catch them all. But even outside of social connectivity, Pokémon has always been determined to let the games themselves connect, namely through transferring Pokémon throughout generations. As far back as Generation 3, any Pokémon you caught could be sent up through the games over the years, and eventually into the most recent games. If I catch a Pokémon in my copy of Pokémon Emerald for the Game Boy Advance, then I can take a backwards compatible DS with a Gen 4 game like Diamond to transfer it into that game. Then I can take another DS with Black or White in it to transfer them on up to Gen 5. Then I can take that cartridge, put it in my 3DS with PokéTransporter on it to get that Mon into Pokémon Bank, which I can then transfer into Pokémon Home on my Nintendo Switch, and then put that exact same Pokémon from my old-ass Game Boy into Pokémon Scarlet or Pokémon Violet. That's what's important to note here. It's the connection. Pokémon is about the bond between trainer and Pokémon, you know, you'll teach me and I'll teach you, it's in the theme song. A little kid can catch something on their Game Boy Advance and still be using that exact same Pokémon on their Nintendo Switch as an adult. We see it in competitive all the time. Actually, that's another point. Growing up with Pokémon, the kids who played those old games and grew up with the Pokémon they caught are still playing today, and still using those same Pokémon. And that's mostly because of how connected the games are. Pokémon is a social experience. Whether it be trading cards or trading in games, people are always incentivized to connect with each other to make the most out of Pokémon. It's honestly one of the biggest reasons why Pokémon was such a hit. The series is infectious. Even if you have no interest in it, it's basically impossible to avoid with how much it connected the people around you. Thus, more people join in and more people become fans themselves. Even within the games, there's so many facets to the gameplay that can connect people together. Shiny hunting, competitive matches, completing the Pokédex, and much, much more. But we'll get to all of that a bit later. My point here is that the reason why Pokémon fans are so dedicated is because the franchise was a breeding ground for making friends, connecting with the game, and, of course, the sheer fact that the game is timeless. Most kids who grew up with Pokémon still love it to this day, which makes it all the harder for those people to see what the franchise has become.
Am I really gonna defile this grave for money? Of course I am!
When the 8th generation of Pokémon games were revealed, Game Freak stated in an interview a detail that would change the landscape of the Pokémon franchise forever. The National Dex would not be returning for Pokémon Sword and Pokémon Shield, meaning that only certain Pokémon from the older games can be transferred into the new games. Those unavailable will just be stuck in Pokémon Home. Pokémon, gotta catch 'em all. Pokémon, just kidding, go fuck yourself. And you may have noticed I mentioned a little app called Pokémon Home. Well, that's the free app allowing you to transfer Pokémon between games on the Switch and from Pokémon Bank on the 3DS. Well, at least it's free if you only plan to catch 30 Pokémon ever. Otherwise, you'll have to pay a monthly subscription to access the premium plan of this teeny little app. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. Pokemon for $4.99 a month. Despite all of this, however, the community has stuck by the series through thick and thin. People were upset by this situation, but there was hope for something better. And the next game we got was much better. If your definition of better is this. Okay, so I need you guys to understand something. I'm the youngest person in my family. I have a brother and a sister who are both a few years older than me, and all three of us grew up playing Pokemon. I wasn't really old enough to understand what Pokemon was until Black and White when I watched my siblings play it, and then I got into playing the games around the time X and Y came out. It's because of this that my family is very nostalgic for Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, and thus, now that my siblings are adults with responsibilities, imagine that, they were able to play the remakes of these games, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and actually enjoy them quite a bit. So I need you all to understand just how much danger I'm putting myself in by saying this. But unlike most people on the internet, I pride myself in telling the truth. So here goes nothing. I'm sorry to both of my siblings, and to everybody else out there who's nostalgic for Gen 4. But Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are some of the worst games ever put out by a major company. They are so bad that even thinking about playing them makes me physically ill. They are soulless cash grabs made to prey on nostalgia and nothing else. Every other Pokemon remake adds in the mechanics of recent Pokemon games. Look at Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Those are remakes of Game Boy Advance games, and yet they are still some of the most high-quality games on the Nintendo 3DS. They don't feel like remakes, they feel like games that could have come out when they came out. Not Diamond and Pearl, though! They are simply HD versions of decades-old games and nothing more. And they can't even do that right! They aren't bad games. They're just terrible remakes. You can't charge 50% more money for an incomplete and worse version of what was already a great game made for far worse hardware. How do you take a DS game and make it worse by trying to upgrade it? I just don't get it. How do you make a 2D pixel art game have so much more expression and liveliness than a 2021 Nintendo Switch HD game? I don't even know what to say anymore, man. This game is bad, and we all know that. I'd like to say the community stayed dedicated after this, but honestly, everyone was disappointed. It's even more baffling how bad this game is considering they released Peak 2 months later. Pokemon Legends Arceus. Why can't all Pokemon games look like this? I don't need to tell you how good of a game Legends Arceus is. If you've played it, you know. It brought Pokemon into a new generation by visiting an old one. It actually put work into the animations and storytelling like they promised to do in Sword and Shield. And this is honestly the only Pokemon game on Switch that can justify not having the national dex, because it takes place in the past. Certain Pokemon don't even exist yet. Of course I can't transfer in my Voltorb, because in the past, Voltorb looked like this. Plus, the sheer fact that you can catch all the Gen 4 legendaries just from the story is such a major middle finger to Diamond and Pearl remakes, which of course locked them behind version exclusive content, just like the originals were. The characters are good, the story is interesting, seeing the creation of the Pokeball is such an interesting concept, and the fact that we get to play as one of the first people to ever catch Pokemon in the universe is absolutely insane and makes me unbelievably happy. This game, right here, revitalized the series, and felt like karma for the dedication this fanbase had. But there's one person that really drove this point home for me. The person who is actually the reason I wanted to make this video in the first place.
I just think they're neat.
Absol Blogs Pokemon is a fellow YouTuber and prominent Twitch streamer who has dedicated his online presence to, quote, documenting Pokemon, or more specifically, the Pokemon community, and the creations that have spawned from it. He not only does shiny hunting videos and level 100 gauntlets, but he has brought the community together with unique challenges such as Wonder Trade gauntlets and, of course, Safari Week. But we'll get there. Absol Blogs is a perfect example of the difference between the Pokemon community and other online groups. His content style and dedication to Pokemon show that the people in this community are really just children who never grew up. That sounded more condescending than I wanted it to be, but I mean that in the best way possible. Pokemon is timeless and can be enjoyed by all ages. And with how expansive the franchise is, it just goes to show the limits these games can be pushed to and the communities that form around different niches in the Pokemon zeitgeist. Or should I say, the poltergeist. That was such an awful joke. Anyways, AbsolBlog's Pokemon has become one of my favorite new YouTubers as of late, especially due to his challenges which involve the whole Pokemon community. I especially think the Wonder Trade Gauntlet in Pokemon Sun and Moon as one big goodbye to the 3DS online servers is one of the most creative ways I've seen a community tackle such a shutdown, which honestly just goes to show what I think the Pokemon community's most defining aspect is. That's making your own fun. Pokemon games are pretty in-depth experiences when you think about it. There's a lot more to do than it seems. Completing the Pokédex for one thing and trading up a team to level 100, the pinnacle of power. But the community makes its own fun with other aspects of the series taken to the extreme. What I'm talking about here is mainly the competitive scene and the shiny hunting scene. With the methods for shiny hunting changing every game, and the allure of such a rare Pokemon, both combine to create a really unique subsection of such a dedicated community already. As I said in the previous section, one of the biggest shiny hunting events ever is Safari Week. Created by AbsolBlog's Pokemon, this is an event where the community takes a week to specifically hunt in the Safari Zone, a place in certain Pokemon games where the Pokemon you're trying to catch can run away from you. But you also don't have to throw out your own Pokemon, so the encounters go by much faster. It's a really interesting risk versus reward system. I actually participated this year and was able to find a shiny Tangela in Pokemon Platinum after 9,044 encounters, and it ran away after I threw 8 Safari Balls. I'm still mad about that. If you want to hear more about this year's Safari Week, I'd suggest checking out MJ the Shiny Hunter's video on the event. I make a bit of an appearance there, so, you know, it's gotta be good. In any case, shiny hunting has become a big hobby of mine. In fact, I'm actually shiny hunting while I'm recording this script. I'm doing some Masuda method hunting in Pokemon Violet, and, yeah, we'll see if I get anything. Hey, future me, if I end up getting any shinies from the eggs that I'm collecting in this picnic while I'm recording, you should put it on the screen. Thanks, future me. You're a G. Shiny Fuecoco! Oh my god, shiny Fuecoco! I wasn't recording, so this isn't my full reaction, but shiny frickin' Fuecoco, oh my god. Oh my goodness, guys, we got it. We fricking got it. Oh, this is so going in the video. Anyways, shiny hunting has become a huge hobby of mine, as I just said, and it's one of the big reasons I wanted to make this video in the first place. Of course, on the other side of things, we have the competitive scene, and the fan-made website, Pokemon Showdown. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really invested in this side of the community, so I can't comment on it too much, but what I do have to say is the dedication here, much like with the shiny hunting scene, is absolutely insane. Pokemon Showdown is meant for competitive play and consistently has thousands of people online, which is crazy for a fan-made website. As with any game that has online play, you have a pretty dedicated competitive scene, but even so, I think Pokemon's community goes a step further. As a whole, even with the quality of some of the recent games being less than great, the community manages to create their own fun and even their own websites to run competitive play, despite the quality of some of the recent games, which is honestly something I don't think I've seen on such a grand scale for any other franchise on the internet. Pokemon, as I've said before, is one of those timeless games that you never really grow out of. I genuinely don't think I've ever met anyone who played Pokemon as a kid who doesn't still play it to some extent as an adult. Whatever the reason, it's that dedication to this franchise that makes its community so abundant and lively. And it's that community that drew me and many others back into the world of Pokemon. I guess what I'm trying to say here is that no matter what happens to the series, whether Game Freak gets their act together and starts making great games like we've always wanted, or if it's all just a downward spiral from here, I don't think the quality of this franchise and the media it's connected to can ever affect the quality of the community that it's built. And that is what makes Pokemon the most dedicated fanbase on the internet. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. Before you go though, I have a few things to say. First things first, we are almost at 500 subscribers. very, very close. I mean, take a look at that. It's like 4:15 at the time I'm recording, so please, if you haven't already, or if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. It really goes such a long way, so much more than you know. So yeah, just kind of scroll down there and hit that little button. Just give it a tap. It's completely free, and it really helps me out like a whole lot. Secondly, Absol Vlogs Pokemon. Hi, if you're watching this, sorry about the what happened on stream the other day. Yeah, for context, I was streaming with MJ the other day. We were well, it was MJ's stream, but I was like tagging along. And Absol actually rated the stream. We went from 2 viewers to like 500 viewers in a second. It was insane. And so we were really excited about that. And then I go, hey, Absol, I'm making a video on the Pokemon community, and I'm including, like, as one of my main points, just the existence of your channel, because that's how much I love it. And then he typed a message in all caps. The reason why I'm saying he typed a message in all caps and not just telling you what the message was is because Nightbot deleted the message because it was in all caps, and he didn't say anything after that. So yeah, MJ's automatic moderator kind of sniped Absol, so if you're watching this, I'm so sorry about that, and I hope you enjoyed the video if you stumbled across it. But yeah, thanks for the raid. Everybody else, thank you for sticking with me for these past few videos. I know it's been a bit since I've uploaded last. I was away for a while. Off at a camp learning Mandarin, so that was fun. I have a few scripts in the works, so hopefully the uploads will be a bit more consistent, but no promises. That's about all I really have. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. It really helps out, and I'll see you guys in the next video, whatever that may be. So, see ya. This was my next batch.